Hello, in this video I'd like to show off the newest ship in my port, the Wyoming class battleship, the American Tier 4 one. And when I say it's the newest ship in my harbour, port, whatever, it's kind of not really. I've had the Arkansas ever since open beta, and the Arkansas is basically the same ship as the Wyoming here. I also played the Wyoming a fair bit back in closed beta, so it's really not new to me at all, it's just new for open beta. But I've probably only played maybe 10 games in this at most, and I was just finding I've been having not quite the same level of success in the Wyoming that I do in the Arkansas, even though the Wyoming is by far a better ship. This first game I'm going to show you, it's going to show off some of the strengths of the Wyoming, mainly one of them, but also showing off kind of the luck I've been having in this ship. So you see we're on Solomon Islands, and I initially went north, and coming with me there were 3 cruisers and 1 destroyer. 2 of those cruisers fell back as soon as we saw the enemy, and one of them was destroyed, so now it's just me and this destroyer up here. And we are fighting, well, what's that, 4 enemy cruisers plus a New York class battleship, which I don't want to fight one-on-one. And there's also an Izakaze class destroyer around here somewhere, which is also very dangerous for me. So, side discretion is the better part of valor, and I'm pulling back and trying to use my range advantage to pummel these enemy ships. So I managed to get 1 citadel hit on that Furutaka there, and it's really feeling the hurt. And well, I say I haven't had much luck in this ship so far. I mean, the whole situation here is kind of bad for me, but I'm actually get lucky there that the New York has run aground, and as you can see its shells, well, it seems to be falling short as if I'm actually out of its maximum range. So for the next minute or two, I'm actually going to be in an advantageous situation. All the enemy cruisers are going to rush forward, being led by this Kolberg, and the New York's not in a position to support them, so I'm going to have kind of free reign for the next moment. See, enemy torpedo bombers here are coming in for the attack, but the Nicholas here, who's with me, comes in to intercept them, and you see it's already shot down 1 enemy bomber, and there's the second one gone. And this Nicholas actually played a really good game, and I was really glad to have it with me. Shot down 3 of the enemy bombers, and it's about to get the 4th. So those bombers don't even make it to me, they were shot down by my escorting destroyer. I took a few more shots at the Furutaka there, but it obviously missed, and then switched back to the Kolberg since it is the nearest cruiser. I see the Izakaze there for a second, but it's so far away it's not a real threat to me at the moment. I just try to aim my shots, but the Kolberg was dodging a bit. And I haven't really learnt whether I should shoot armor piercing or high explosive at a Kolberg. As you saw there, I only got 1 hit at that range because my guns just aren't accurate enough. That 1 hit over-penetrated, did 830 damage, which isn't bad. The Kolberg doesn't have a lot of hit points, so it can't really afford to lose even 830. But earlier on I hit it, did a few thousand damage. See, my guns have reloaded again, and by the way, it turns a bit more broadside on, so it's a bit better for me in this situation. Do 2,000 damage with 3 hits, again, not fantastic. So I'm thinking I might actually be better off firing high explosive at the Kolberg in this situation. But fire off 1 more shot. Again, it over-penetrates. And I've actually started turning towards the Kolberg here because I feel that I had an advantageous situation. The New York's coming back into range now, and I want to take advantage of this and kill this Kolberg. And there we go, 5,000 damage with 5 hits, so obviously at least one of those penetrated and exploded. And I just kind of need 1 more broadside like that, and this guy is dead. Fire off 1 of my turrets, but it misses. The Wyoming and the Arkansas really kind of rely on volume of fire rather than accuracy to score hits. And unfortunately for me, the Kolberg's very weak and is doing basically nothing to me. I hit it and I absolutely wreck it, leaving on 214 health, but it sets me on fire and I use my repair ability to put that fire out. And then the Nicholas escorting me managed to kill the Kolberg. And now, well, the New York's firing at me, but there are 2 cruisers in front of it. Kolberg there is pulling back and doesn't give me a very good angle, so I fire at the St. Louis, and the Izokaze appears 5.9 kilometers away from me, which means I am pretty certain it's just basically botched a stealth torpedo attack, and it's launched its torpedoes, it's now pulling back. So I immediately turn away to try and spoil its aim, but then I see enemy torpedo bombers coming in. So I shoot one of them down, fire my guns at the St. Louis, and figure I'm going to have to turn into the torpedo bombers to try and dodge their torpedoes. Got my anti-aircraft guns going away, I shot down one of the bombers. And that's when I see the Izokaze's torpedoes. I'm trying to dodge the torpedo bombers, I'd actually completely forgotten about that. In my mind I'd already dodged those torpedoes, so I didn't have to worry about them. And I end up absorbing 2 of them, and because I just used my damage repair ability to put out that fire from the Kolberg earlier, I'm not going to be able to put out this, well, stop this flooding for another minute and 4 seconds. I do get some, well, benefit there, and I put a citadel hit into the St. Louis, but more torpedo bombers are coming in. I'm turning into them and slowing down, and I managed to avoid those torpedoes as well. But in doing so, I've actually had to turn into the enemy cruisers, the Izokaze and the New York here, which is just somewhere I don't want to be, but I get killed by flooding. But, well, those torpedo bombers didn't actually get a single hit on me, and I did shoot down 7 of them. They still won that engagement because, well, because they showed up, I died. And it was just kind of unlucky that they showed up when they did just after the Izokaze had fired, and that they'd also showed up just after I'd put out that fire from the Kolberg. And like I say, sometimes just unlucky. But I also got to show you one of the strengths of the Wyoming, which is that it's actually got very powerful anti-aircraft guns. As you saw, those were fighters from the bombers from the Hosho, which is a Tier 4 aircraft carrier, the same tier as this ship. And I managed to shoot down 7 of them. That second torpedo bomber wave, I don't really notice the first one, but the second one lost half their bombers coming in and the other half going out. So this is a very costly ship if you want to launch attacks from it, at least if you're an equal tier aircraft carrier. This next game, well, it actually is kind of another form of the bad luck I've been getting in the Wyoming. I initially started heading off towards the west of this map, then realised that, well, I was actually the only person on my team that was going that way. A Wix turned around and went that way, but a Tier 3 destroyer is not going to be that much help to me. So instead I've turned around and started following the rest of my team towards, well, the south. But at this point I was thinking I was going to have a really bad game. Basically, because the Wyoming is quite slow, I figured that either the enemy team were just going to come around and cap and win that way, and I was going to have to basically try and defend the cap and probably be overwhelmed by their team. Or if by some miracle they didn't go around and cap us that way, I was just going to spend the whole game chasing the rest of my team, taking a few long-range shots at enemies, and probably just not having a good game. So I wasn't really in that good a mood at this particular moment in time. I've seen a Kolberg, it's coming around the flank just as I feared the enemy team would, but there's no point in me going off there by myself because I'll just die quicker that way. I decided to fire a long-range broadside off at the Kolberg. I lose sight of it, but reappears momentarily. I get to see that my shells all went long, so my long-range broadsides are a bit of a, what's called like rolling the dice, a bit of a gamble at any range, at long range in this ship. Well, actually I suppose in any battleship. And you just have to accept that sometimes you're going to miss all your shots. Fire off another broadside just before I go behind this island, but the Kolberg was turning there and I don't get any hits. And unfortunately now I'm kind of in a position where I'm kind of threatened by 2 destroyers. None of them are actually in a position to attack me directly yet, but they could both do so very quickly if they so chose to. I've got armor piercing loaded, which is bad, but it's not horrible. This Tursky in front of me, it's really lost about half its hit points, which means 6 over-penetrating hits, and I'll actually kill it. As it is, I only get 1, but 830 damage, it's, well, about a sixth of its remaining hit points. so even that damage was something it couldn't really bear to take. I'm loading high explosive because I'm obviously going to have to fight this Dursky, and I'm actually pulling back partly because I don't want to get too close to these destroyers, but also partly because the one cruiser who was in a position to defend our base has just died, which means that I am basically the only ship who's going to be in a position to stop the enemy advancing on our base. I actually get kind of lucky there and managed to kill the Dursky. And you hear I make a bit of a mistake. Nobody's been sighted moving to a base yet, so I decide that I can move and use my anti-aircraft guns to support my friendly fighters in this engagement. Unfortunately, I must have remembered my anti-aircraft range incorrectly, because I thought I would be able to get involved here, but instead it looks like my allied fighters are all going to die well before my anti-aircraft guns come into play. And while this is happening, the enemy have actually started capping B. And I can also see, actually I can't see it now, but I saw it at the time, there was some smoke off in the horizon on the right. And I kind of assumed that there was a destroyer capturing B, and there was also another enemy destroyer off in the distance, so I thought I was going to have to go and just charge into B against 2 enemy destroyers, which is generally not recommended in a battleship, but there's no one else to do it, and somebody has to. I can see one of the enemy destroyers has popped. Well, I say one of the enemy destroyers, I thought there were 2. It turns out there's actually only 1 enemy destroyer surviving. It was actually that Wix from earlier that popped smoke over the other side of the map. But anyway, the enemy destroyer that's capturing B is obviously sitting in that smoke, but while I'm moving into that area, I decide to fire off some high explosive at this Kohlberg. You note that I'm firing high explosive now, because in the last match I wasn't really satisfied with how my armor piercing was working. High explosive, it seems to be doing a little bit better, but not fantastically so. That Kohlberg got absolutely wrecked by friendly torpedo bombers there. And another Karlsruhe has popped up. Well, another Karlsruhe, another cruiser, a Karlsruhe, has popped up. I've got high explosive loaded, which isn't ideal against Karlsruhe, but it does alright against Kohlberg, and it's ideal for if I have to fight that destroyer. Fire off a couple of guns at the Kohlberg, just enough to stop it from gaining any capture points, and fire the rest of mine at the Karlsruhe, again, once taken away any capture points it has. But obviously all the capture points are being held by this destroyer, which is hiding the smoke screen, so I'm just going to have to bite the bullet and charge in there and spot it. Unfortunately for me, the smoke screen starts to dissipate, and it exposes the enemy Dursky here, which is now obviously decided its only method of surviving, really, is to come and engage me. Fire off my turrets that are loaded at it, do a fair bit of damage, take out its engines. My secondary guns come into play. Because I've got the upgraded hull, the secondary guns on the Wyoming are fairly weak, but they do fire rapidly and have decent range. As you can see, they don't really hit much, but they try. But anyway, I've hit the Dursky, so I've taken away its capture points, which means I now want to focus back on killing this Kohlberg, just because it's the easiest one of the 3 enemies in front of me to eliminate. So I've got high explosive loaded. I wait to get a full broadside ready because I want to be certain of the kill here, and also because I want to switch to armor piercing so I can take out the Karlsruhe. And it actually occurs to me that the Karlsruhe is, I'm pretty sure it's got torpedoes. It's very close to me, so I decide to start turning into it just in case it does actually have torpedoes and they're in the water right now. But well, I never see any torpedoes, and it actually gets wrecked by my allied torpedo bombers, who, well, they've done very well for themselves just now. They basically killed that Kohlberg, and they did kill that Karlsruhe, which means that now I just have to worry about this Dursky here. And well, I don't play very well there. I had armor piercing loaded because I was intending to shoot at the Karlsruhe, and even though I knew there wasn't a very good chance of me hitting that Dursky, I fired anyway. All my shots missed. It was just because it was bow onto me, it didn't present a very good target. But in my mind, I wanted to fire as quickly as possible so I could get high explosive loaded, and it didn't occur to me that at this range I'm not actually going to have time to reload before it comes to torpedo range. So it's turned broadside onto me, which obviously means that it's fired torpedoes. I had turned away, but then I switch my turn and start turning around into it. and my turrets have started to reload high explosive and I'm firing away. Get very lucky there and managed to kill it, and because of my turn I managed to dodge most of its torpedoes, but it looks like I'm going to take one hit here. And it turns out the Durski's range of its torpedoes was just not quite long enough. Probably only 50 meters more, and well, I would have taken a lot of damage. But that 3 kilometer range on these torpedoes are just very debilitating. Now I've just sped the replay up here because, well, here's another big disadvantage of the Wyoming. It's faster than the South Carolina, but 20.8 knots is still not fast. And unfortunately, me and the friendly aircraft carriers have killed all the enemy ships in this part of the map, which means I've now got to go right over to the opposite corner of the thing before I can shoot at any more enemies. Now I make yet another mistake here in that I decide I'm going to point all my guns to the right, because that's the side I'm going to be engaging the enemies with. Then I see the Myogi, and I see where the enemy aircraft carriers are, and I decide at the last minute, no, actually I want my guns facing the other direction. Which means that this first broadside I fire, it's only got 4 shells in it, gets 1 hit, does very little damage, and I don't actually get an opportunity to fire my rear turrets, which are 2/3 of my guns, at the Myogi until it's far too late here. I mean, I fire them off, but the Myogi dies before my shells arrive, which means that now I just have the enemy aircraft carriers to shoot at. And the Langley here is about to come into range. I have armor-piercing loaded, so I'd fire it off, even though I get 2 hits. It does very little damage because the Langley's got very little armor. But I do reload high explosive. The Langley's almost dead, but I have no problems at all with finishing it off. And then, well, the other Langley dies soon afterwards. So I got 4 kills, which makes this, well, at least in that respect, the best game that I've had in the Wyoming so far. But you see, I didn't actually do a lot of damage, because the kills I got, 2 of them were against destroyers, 1 was against an almost dead aircraft carrier, and the 3rd was against an almost dead Kohlberg. So, I mean, my main contribution, I would like to think that I played a significant role in that game, just because I was the one defending the base, along with those aircraft carriers, and if I wasn't there, probably that Durski would have capped, and we would have lost. But, still, it was just kind of unlucky that at the start my team went one way, and I was just in a situation where I had to go back in and fight, well, what I thought was 2 destroyers, but turned out to be just 2 cruisers and a destroyer, and do it on my own with only support from aircraft carriers. But in that situation I managed to pull it through, and hopefully I'll manage to keep doing that in the Wyoming. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all next time.